Hello, carbon-based listeners and silicon-powered friends. Welcome to Mastering the Machine, the podcast where humans and automation collide in perfect harmony. I'm your host, Frank Lamb, and whether you're flesh and blood or circuits and code, we're here to explore industrial automation together. From factory floors to digital cores, we're exploring how machines are reshaping our world, one algorithm at a time. So plug in, power up, and let's master the machine together. My guest today is Stephen Gates, PLC programming coach and founder of myPLCtraining.com, an online IACET certified PLC training and coaching company. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
It's been a little while since we chatted.
Yeah, it has. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So what was your original training and how did you get started in automation?
Yeah, my original training was that I went to engineering school in Missouri, at Missouri S&T in Rolla, Missouri, and I studied electrical engineering there. And there was a instructor there, Kelvin Erickson. That's right. I was checking his book behind me. Kelvin Erickson, who was, I believe, the chairman at the time. Anyway, he had 2 PLC courses, I believe. And he had worked in factory automation for years before he became an instructor. So anyway, it was needless to say, he wrote a book this big on PLC programming. So he was very knowledgeable about it. And that's what kind of whet my appetite initially. So it was that. And then honestly, I took a couple computer programming classes as well. And I thought that was cool. So PLC seemed like a really perfect way to get the programming side into the career I was already headed into. So yeah, that's how I got interested in it. And then when I was looking for a job, I was kind of also interested in the power side of things. So I was kind of looking at 2 different directions, power systems or industrial automation. So I ended up getting a job that had both, which was kind of crazy because I only had 2 job offers at the time. One was at a steel plant in Gary, Indiana, which everyone told me was a terrible place to live. And the other was this small family-owned business in Omaha, Nebraska that did power systems and they automated their equipment. So that's the one I wanted to go for. And I ended up working there for 10 years doing PLCs and power stuff and relay protection and generator related controls. And it was a lot of fun. So that's kind of my story of as far as how I learned it, started learning it, and then really got into it in my career.
And did you have any SCADA or HMIs also at that time?
That's a great question. I don't think we did anything HMI related in the PLC classes that I remember. It was strictly PLC programming.
I've heard of Kelvin Erickson. He's a pretty well-known author, certainly.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that he taught it at your university. That's interesting.
Yeah, so his main book is literally this big, and it covers Allen Bradley, Modicon, I mean, I don't know how many updates he's done, but this was quite a while ago. Siemens, so at least 4, those 4. And then he had another one that was just Allen Bradley that's a little smaller, but a lot of cool stuff in there, cool examples, and using different programming languages and all sorts of stuff.
I think I've seen the Allen Bradley book. I'm not sure I've seen the other one, but
Yeah,
something that covers Modicon would be interesting because that's one of the holes
yeah,
in my
right.
knowledge. I don't do a lot of Modicon. So did you start out with the switchgear company mostly doing Allen Bradley, would you say?
Yeah, I think we did only Allen Bradley. There was a couple customers we dealt with that had like a Modicon or a GE. I remember having to get into a GE one time. I don't think I ever got into Siemens, but yeah, it was like what they'd used since the beginning, and so I just jumped right into that, and that's what we stuck with.
And was it mostly 500 or 5,000 or a little bit of both? Or?
So when I started, it was 2011. They were already, new projects they were doing were already control logics or compact logics at that time. But yeah, we had a lot of existing systems that we serviced and stuff that were Slick 500s or even PLC 5s. I did two or three big PLC upgrades from PLC 5 to control logics. So yeah, spent a lot of time in PLC 5 stuff as well, even in whatever that was, 2014 to 2016. There was still plenty of it around. I'm sure there's still a few dinosaurs out there.
Was this a regional company or did you have to travel much far away?
Yeah, we were fairly regional, so fair like maybe most of our stuff was within 300 miles of Omaha. But yeah, I did travel. I traveled quite a bit to, places that were 2 hours away or 3 hours away. And then the furthest out I went was probably Virginia a couple times for a Sprint facility and Texas a couple times for a Pilgrim's Pride facility and Oklahoma for University of Oklahoma. We had some stuff there, but usually it was Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, sometimes Minnesota.
Okay, so mostly driving distance.
Usually, yeah.
And so what initially prompted you to get into teaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. So teaching, what got me interested in that was, well, a couple things. I think first of all, I kind of had a natural enjoyment of showing people how to do things that I had learned, especially if it was something that was challenging for me to learn. Then it was always like kind of a thrill to show somebody, look, this is how I got over this roadblock that frustrated me. So maybe this will help you too. So, I would show people at work different things that I had figured out and things like that. And then, I mean, PLC programming was the stuff that I liked the most at my job. So it was just doing it was fun for me. So I just got interested in side hustle stuff in, I think it was like 2015. I started listening to podcasts and reading stuff online and dreaming up what kinds of businesses I could start. And I was really drawn, obviously, to the online world and all the possibilities of reaching people online and getting a big customer base without having to, have a broad product. Like you could be in a narrow niche and still reach a lot of people. So I started doing research. I remember I joined a Facebook group that was like electricians or something, some electrician Facebook group. And that was when Facebook groups were more reasonable, more useful. Nowadays, it's definitely hit or miss. But I started just kind of talking to people in there, asking questions to see if people are interested in learning PLCs. And I targeted electricians because when when I started my job, there was me and another young engineer that had started. The two guys that were there before us, who'd been doing the PLC programming stuff for the company for years, weren't even engineers. They didn't have engineering degrees. And I started seeing that more and more in the industry. I'm like, wait a minute. There's all these people in this industry, in industrial automation, that are not engineers. And so to me, that was a green flag, so to speak, that this is a really valuable skill. If you can get an engineer's job without getting an engineer's degree, that's a really valuable skill. So I had a coworker that was an electrician, and he was interested in this stuff. He was good at what he did as an electrician. We would go do commissioning projects and troubleshooting projects together. He'd be doing, 99% of the hands-on wiring stuff, and I'd be on the laptop and we'd be checking drawings and working together. And I would start showing him what I was working on, and he was interested, and I started kind of teaching him. And I was like, look, man, you could probably get this job. I mean, you know the hardware stuff, you understand the equipment pretty well, our process, how it works. Because we're automating switchgear and generators. There's some complexity to it, but it's most of the systems had a lot of overlap in what we were doing. So he understood that, and then he was starting to learn the PLC side of things, and so it was coming together. And I encouraged him basically that he should try to get into what I was doing if he was interested. And I think I might be skipping ahead. My timeline's a little fuzzy, but he did end up taking some of my courses. I can't remember if it was before or after, but he did get a job working right alongside me. So we ended up, on the same team for years. But somewhere in there, like I was really realizing that electricians are potentially a good fit for this if they understand, industrial electricians that are working on the hardware side, the wiring side of these machines and processes. If they can get the PLC side of things, a lot of times they could be a good fit for that. And honestly, I didn't know much about maintenance technicians and stuff at that time because I was not in manufacturing. But obviously they ended up being, they often are a great fit for it as well. So that was kind of the route I ended up taking, is these people that have experience in their field working, literally wiring up PLCs in many cases, or troubleshooting machines that are controlled by PLCs. It's like they're this close, right? And if they understand what they're working with and they're good at what they do already, if they can get that PLC programming experience, it opens up a lot of doors in some cases. So that's kind of the route I took.
Have you had any problem with people that don't understand the computer side? They know that you go online with computers, but
Yeah.
just fumbling through the operating system itself can be a problem with some of the older guys.
Yes. Yep. That's a challenge for some people. And we ended up creating, kind of a mini course on the basics of navigating Windows, because that does come up from time to time. And, you know, working with installing Rockwell software is just kind of a pain in the butt in general. Like even for somebody who's works with computers fairly regularly, a lot of people don't work with old desktop software, right? They're doing stuff on the web and all that. But so a lot of that's one of the biggest struggles that our students have. And we really have worked hard at trying to make sure they get over that hump and don't get discouraged and give up, because it's like once you get past it, that's when it gets fun. But you do have to kind of go through some of that annoying software stuff and computer stuff. So yeah, it's an issue, but most of our students do a good job working through it.
So you learned a lot of the idea behind creating an online presence when you were doing your research and everything. And when did you finally start creating maybe some videos and things like that for training? Is that how you
Yeah.
do it? Mostly videos, or do you do some in-person recordings or?
Yeah, it was all video trainings. I was working full time at the time. So I think that the guy that really got me fired up to try this out was Brian something at Growth Tools. I can't believe I'm forgetting his last name, but I listened to some podcast of his, and he's like, listen, the way you do this is you pre-validate what you're going to make before you make it. And the way you do that is you survey people, see if there's interest, And obviously, that's one level of interest to say you're interested and that you would pay for something. The next level of interest is to actually make them vote with their money. So you create kind of a pre-launch thing and say, hey, I'm planning on creating this course. It's going to be $197 when I release the course. I am offering it to some beta testers to help me build this. If you pre-order, for 67 bucks or 40, something really, really cheap, to get them interested in kind of funding this building of the course. And it doesn't necessarily fund the building of it. I mean, I spent quite a few hours, but I think I got maybe 20 people sent me 50 bucks or 60 bucks online, and that was pretty exciting. It's like I have nothing. I have nothing to give them, but they're trusting me enough to send me this money. So there's obviously interest here. And so that's when I started creating my first mini course. It was called Ladder Logic Foundations, is what it was called. And yeah, so the people that bought it early got it for really cheap, and then we started trying to refine it and sell it to others and add on extra courses after that. It's all primarily been video-based courses with a couple exceptions.
Okay, and then you came up with the idea, the name myPLCtraining early on, or did that come a little later?
Yeah, I think I was just looking for domains
Mhm.
when I was starting out the business, and I don't remember what I searched for, what I was thinking at the time, but there was a couple things I looked for that weren't available, and so I went with my PLC training, and it just stuck.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like it's pretty successful. I will say your marketing, you're pretty much everywhere. I see you on Facebook. I see you on LinkedIn. I think YouTube, your material pops up on YouTube. So you've done a
Yeah,
really good job of putting it out there. And I also do receive your emails. That's been
nice.
consistent. And I do know I went through some of the same kind of courses myself.
Mm,
My problem is I'm doing 10 things at once and I don't concentrate enough on the PLC training part of it. Always,
sure.
but the
Oh,
marketing
I
is
relate to
nearly
that.
yeah, it's a full-time job, really, just about.
It
Um,
is. And there's been many times where I haven't been super consistent. I've been able to be more consistent mostly because I have a team now. And they do things for me that allows me to stay consistent. Like I'm I'll record a few videos, they'll help, edit it and get it out there on a schedule, and then I do one-off things here and there. So that definitely helps. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing it yourself, you're trying to create the courses, trying to stay sharp on the technical side, and you're trying to learn this marketing stuff and manage the business. It's a lot, just like any business, though. It's like you have the technical skills of the business itself that you deliver to your customer to make them something that they want to pay for. And then you have the business side and the marketing side to get more business, to make sure you're profitable and all that. So you're familiar with all that, I know.
and did you pretty much go full time maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
Yep, yep, that's about right. 2021, I was really blessed because in 20, I don't know, I think it was 2018, early 2018, I had started building this on the side. And I was working an average of 45 hours a week, generally like 5 9-hour days was the typical day or typical week. And I just asked my boss, I was like, look, I'm trying to build this thing on the side. I'll be honest. Would you allow me to still work here and only work 36 hours a week generally, and just take Fridays off? As far as I know, like he was fine with it from the get-go. I think he would have preferred that I work full time, but he was willing to let me do that. So that's what I did for 2 years maybe, worked 36-hour weeks, and I focused on my business on Fridays as much as I could, and I would knock out a handful of things throughout the week too to keep making progress. And then in 2020, I asked him if I could go down to 20 hours a week because I was making, a few thousand a month or something. I was like, I think we can survive on half my salary and take a little bit from the business and have more time to grow it. And with the intention of going full time. So then did that 20 hours a week, and I was able to definitely make a lot quicker progress that year. And then in 2021 went full time and been there ever since.
I know you're now certified by IACET,
Yeah.
right? Which I looked into that somewhat myself, but what was all involved in getting fully certified by IACET?
It's for those who don't know, it's International Accreditors of Continuing Education and Training. So they call themselves IACET for short. It was not fun, I can tell you that. I would not have done it without my team, honestly. I looked into it probably 2 or 3 times over the years, and every time I looked at it, I'm just like, wow, this like all this stuff that they want, it just I don't even know if it's going to make a difference. But there's one lady on my team who worked in compliance related things in her past career, and she was really excited about this. And every time we talk, she's like, "You should do this. We can do it. We can do it." And I'd be like, "Okay, we'll see." And anyway, so it was a long process, a little over a year of time spent on it. Now, we weren't working on it 100% of the time throughout that year, of course, but there was a lot of hours thrown at that. And I had her, she was working probably half of her hours were dedicated to that. And she had somebody else we brought on temporarily who helped even more. So, and then we would meet weekly and go over the policies that we needed to create. Basically, what they're trying to do is IACET, they do a good job of making sure that you are holding to your own standards. So they have a few things that they require, but most of what they require is that you set your standard and you keep your standard. So it's not just arbitrary standards that they come up with for every company because they accredit all sorts of continuing education training companies. So there's a lot of things that it wouldn't make sense for them to set the standards since they're not experts on every area. But yeah, they really made us look hard at what our processes and our policies were and make sure that we are actually following those. And that we're what students think they're getting is what they actually get, and that they can prove that they've achieved a learning outcome. That's kind of the terminology used in continuing education and training for adults is like learning outcomes. What is a learning outcome of this course, and how do you prove that it's been achieved? So that was the process, is proving all that and having systems and processes for that. Would I recommend it? I mean, I wouldn't want to start over again, I can tell you that. But it is useful. It does make you get honest about some stuff in your business. It does make you get a little sharper on some things that you need to keep up with. Yeah, and then obviously for the student, it's great to have an extra level of trust that what they're signing up for is what they're going to get.
Okay, that makes sense. And I looked into this for Automation NTH, and even at their
Mm.
size, they had a kind of an engineering training program, and even at their size, I think they were overwhelmed by the number of things that would have had to been done by
Yeah,
their employees or whoever was assigned to it. So it looked
right.
like a lot, yes.
Yeah, definitely a lot.
Before we dive back into today's episode, let me tell you about the team behind Mastering the Machine. When your manufacturing operation needs to level up its automation game, there's one name you need to know: Automation Consulting, LLC. Whether you're integrating new systems, training your workforce, or need expert consulting on industrial automation challenges, we speak both human and machine language fluently. From PLC programming to process optimization, we help manufacturing companies bridge the gap between what is and what's possible. We also host the ultimate training platform for automation professionals. At the Automation Academy, we've created your complete automation learning ecosystem. Our subscription-based training platform gives you unlimited access to comprehensive video courses on systems integration, PLCs, and HMIs. Download technical documents, software tools, and resources that you can actually use in the field. Plus, get personalized job aptitude assistance to advance your career in industrial automation. But here's the best part. Connect with fellow automation professionals on IO Central, our exclusive social media platform where the automation community shares knowledge, solves problems, and builds the future together. Whether you're a seasoned engineer or just starting your automation journey, everything you need is at www.automationllc.com. That's automationllc.com. Join the subscription platform where automation expertise meets community. Now back to today's episode. And so now you also have, in addition to the video courses, you have a coaching program.
Yeah. Yep. So we have the Confident PLC Programmer Accelerated is our group coaching program. So what that is, we took our courses that were successful and that people were enjoying, and we said, okay, what can we do to help people get better results faster, easier? How can we help them in that way? So basically added a coaching element where it's more of it's still kind of done at their own pace in the program over a 6-month period, but we have periodic check-ins with them where we're making sure they're staying on track with that goal. And then we also have regular opportunities for them to interact with me and our other coach, David Castro. So we have 2 group coaching calls weekly. We're answering questions every week, helping people with the little nuances here and there. And it usually is stuff that is best done live, right? Because as much as possible, we make FAQs and videos that allow the students to do it themselves because we don't want them to have to wait to get support to keep moving forward. But at the same time, there's always, challenges that come up that you don't anticipate. And there's also the ability for us to help them make plans for their career if their main goal, because a lot of the people we work with, they would like to achieve these skills and then also move into a different career. So some people are already in the career they want. They just need to get more confident with the PLC programming and automation. And some people are not there yet, and they need not only the technical side, but they need the career side. Like, how do I get my foot in the door in this industry? Because that can be tricky if you're not well connected in the industry. So we have a career coaching course that we take people through, but more importantly than that, we actually have a career coach. His name is Parker right now, is the guy that's doing that. He has worked in the recruiting industry, so he has a lot of knowledge of HR and, getting resumes through the screening process and all that, and negotiating salary and, really networking with the right people. So he helps our students do that side of things. And of course, I'm involved with some of that as well when there's questions about, hey, is this job something that I can do? Or should I even apply for this? Is this too far above me? And I can kind of help them look through the resume and sort that out, because there are some people that are kind of intimidating, like, should I try this? I don't want to get in over my head, which obviously is a good idea. But usually the problem isn't people getting in over their head. It's them not even getting a chance. So we're helping people get that first chance. And sometimes they're not going to go directly to their dream automation and controls job. A lot of times we recommend, if somebody is trying to break into the industry, they kind of need to take a stepping stone job, whether that's just a basic maintenance technician job that is working around PLCs, or it's more of a controls technician job where they're going to be doing PLC stuff for sure, but they're not going to be designing automation systems and programming from scratch. So we kind of help people navigate that. And it's been having the career coaching side of things has definitely helped our students get more results. We've definitely seen an increase in people getting jobs. I mean, since May, at least 11 people have gotten automation jobs, 11 of our students. And these are mostly people who've never had an automation job. So it's pretty exciting what you can do when you have your skills, your experience, and you pair it with PLC automation, and then you get a little bit of help, finding the right jobs, applying, interviewing, all that. It comes together, and people can transform their career.
I often run in, because I teach a lot of live classes, into people who are from different industries. Maybe some are oil and gas, some are food and beverage, some are pharma, some are utilities, some are just straight process control. So do you have any material that really separates, or is it mostly, would you say, instruction set based, electricians they're first getting into the basics? Do you take it from that approach, or do you have more customized courses?
Yeah, so it's pretty, I would say, fairly cookie cutter. In other words, we don't have super customized paths for different industries, but we do have projects that they do need to create from scratch. And those we do kind of use a range of projects. So it's not all the same industry. So that gives people the experience of thinking through, oh, this machine or this process, just thinking broadly, okay, there's the automation system. What do I need to think of? We got inputs, we got outputs, we got logic, and taking it, applying it to any industry, you're going to have those elements and just figuring out what they are. And then once you figure out what they are, then you figure out which instructions you need to use and start putting your code in depending on which programming language you're using. But yeah, that's kind of how it's set up right now.
So would you say your material overall, is that self-generated? Have you used some of the ideas from Kelvin Erickson's book?
It's a combination. I think there might be a couple of our programming challenges where people create programs from scratch that I borrowed some ideas from Dr. Erickson's book. But, we always change it so that we're not directly plagiarizing
Yes.
any content. But that's easy enough to do. I mean, there's a whole bunch of resources now where you can find ideas for PLC programming projects. Another good book, we've taken one or two ideas from. This is a recent one. I wish I had this one handy, but it's a little green book. I don't know if you've seen this one. It has tons of PLC programming examples in it. It's a guy from Europe. I can't remember his name. I'd have to look it up, but
Is
maybe
it
I can.
Major Anderson, Tom Major Anderson?
That sounds right.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yes, I've got his structured textbook. It was a very
Oh,
good
cool.
book, and they do use this in Denmark in his
Okay,
classes.
Denmark.
So yeah, yeah, he's
Nice.
Danish. Yep.
Nice. Yeah,
Yes.
so that's a great little resource for anybody who, if you had access to the PLC programming software and you could create and you could build, you know, 20 of those projects, I think there's like 100 in there. It's a
Wow.
lot.
Okay.
But if you could build 20 of them, I mean, that would be tremendous, tremendous experience and confidence and something of a portfolio, that you could demonstrate to an employer. So if somebody's really motivated to do it on their own, that would be a good route to go.
Yep. A lot of his material, I haven't. It's definitely not Alan Bradley centric. He's
Right.
yeah, seems to be more of the European platforms, and I'm not even
Yeah.
sure it's Siemens. I have the structured textbook, and it doesn't. It may even be Codesys or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'll have to look up the name just to make sure it's the same guy that I'm thinking of. But it's a little green book and it's only projects.
Okay.
And it doesn't tell you how to program them. It gives you scenarios of machines or processes that you you could program. So the programming side is obviously up to the user.
So there's no necessarily right or wrong. It's make your project work and then test it against these results.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have, because I have seen like you have connected components workbench, which for those listening for the first time, that's a inexpensive way to get into programming because the hardware is not terribly expensive and there is a free version of the software,
Hmm.
which is great. Because a lot of the stuff we talk about, would you recommend people getting into that first before getting into the more expensive platforms? Or do you have another
Um,
suggestion?
yeah, that's a great one. We still take our students, we start out with RS Logix Micro, which is the free version of RS Logix 500. I don't know if you can still get it from Rockwell's website or not, but it used to be you could get it free from Rockwell's website. Um, since they're phasing out Slick 500s and Micrologics, I don't know. Maybe they don't want people using it, but we still use it for the beginning training. It works great. I feel like it has in some ways it has better crossover to Studio 5000 because it looks a little bit more like it, but in other ways, you're using the old style addressing and things like that. I think eventually we will switch to connected components workbench, but I think there's still enough older PLCs out there that it's helpful for our students to have some brief exposure to it. And while they're just learning the basic ladder logic stuff. But yeah, if you can get your hands on free software, there's CCW, there's RS Logix Micro, there's Automation Direct has one or two different softwares, don't they?
Yes,
I know they've
yes.
got the Click platform, and maybe another one. And then I think there's probably a handful of other PLC brands that have free software as well nowadays.
Yep.
Beckhoff,
Hmm.
I know that one does. You've showed us some of that on training before. So yeah, if you can, that's a great place to start is free software. You can learn a lot without having access to the best software.
Yep. The micro supported the 1000 and the 1100, and then they obsoleted both. But for those, you can still find 1000s out there somewhat. And the 1100 is almost exactly the same as the 1400, which of course
Mm,
is a paid software.
yeah,
So if you can do
uh,
the 1100, you can definitely do the
right,
1400. The addressing would be the same. The cards are the same and everything. So
right.
that's a great place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And you can still find some 1000s or 1100s on eBay for
Sure.
pretty cheap. So then you can have free software and a cheap PLC to work with.
Yep. And then I noticed also you do have a way that people can access your licenses for 5,000 or 500 or whatever. I assume you just have a few of your own and then have people remote into a PLC or
Yep, yep. So we have a remote server that our students get access to use software. The primary one we give them access to is Studio 5000 and Studio 5 Logix Emulate. So Logix Designer, Logix Emulate, so that they can not only create their programs, but they can have a controller to test their programs in.
and do you have a way for them to do something that is a final program that connects to something real that they can test against, or is it mostly just typing the code in?
Yeah, so what we do is in our PLC programming challenge, this is where they build several projects from scratch, and we have created simulators for them to test their logic against. So it is all software based, but they get basically HMI graphics that have been set up for them, along with some simulation code that runs in the background to simulate the machine or the process that they're controlling. So then they can see, and I know you've done stuff like this too on some of the trainings we've done with your picker and
Pick and place, yeah.
Pick and place. Yeah, that was a fun one. So something similar to that, where there's simulation logic that runs in the background. The HMI lets them see the machine or process graphics on the screen, and they can visually verify whether their program is working correctly or not. So that seems to work really well for helping people build confidence creating programs from scratch.
Okay. Have you done any troubleshooting exercises where something doesn't work and they have to tell you why it doesn't work?
No, we haven't. I've heard of other people doing that. People end up, I think I could see value in that for sure, but our students end up getting some troubleshooting experience by the creating their programs from scratch and having to troubleshoot their own programs. So that fills in some of that gap. But I have often thought that would be a cool thing to add to have a broken program that they have to figure out what's going on, or a machine that's providing a broken input or something.
And are there any future plans to get into other platforms, or would you say Allen Bradley is mostly what you're going to concentrate on?
We are trying to get a Siemens course started. We've got some stuff in the works. A guest instructor. I'm planning on having a guest instructor build that since I have little experience with Siemens and he has lots of experience with Siemens. So the guest instructor who helped build our RoboGuide Fanuc robotics course is the plan is for him to work on that, time permitting, and that's one of the most requested things that we've had is Siemens, and I think obviously it's probably the number two player in the U.S. in terms of PLC systems. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, it's number one in the world. In the US, I'm seeing a lot of new code assist based platforms.
Mm,
There's so many of them that they may add up to be more than the Siemens because
really?
yeah,
Wow.
they're Wago, they're Phoenix, they're Opto
Oh,
22,
okay.
they're
So it's
Automation
different
Direct.
brands
Yes, but
that
they
are all
all
using
using
the code assist.
exactly.
Okay.
And and then like I've mentioned before, if you can do back off, you can do code assist because that's where it came from.
Mm,
So you can
hmm
kind of lump back off in there too, although some of these companies are diverging from the original code assist and making it more proprietary, more
mm,
different, putting more
interesting.
more libraries and more of their own things in there. So it's getting
Yeah.
interesting, the landscape.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I figured they got to do something to set themselves apart.
Yeah.
But Siemens, from what I've seen of TIA Portal, I think it's a cool platform. It has some weaknesses compared to Rockwell, but I think it has some strengths that Rockwell lacks. So I'm looking forward to
Yes.
getting that built out and letting our students see another side of the world.
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest advantages it has is that you can online edit function blocks, which are
Hmm.
AOIs. It's the exact same thing as an AOI,
Okay.
except that AOIs, you have to use a workaround. You can export it, edit it in some other program, and then import it, and it will run. But
Hmm.
if you're in the process of running, you have to be offline to work on your AOI.
Right.
Whereas,
Right.
yeah, Siemens, it's seamless, and really Codesys, it's seamless too. You can just
Hmm.
change the AOI and or the function block, and it changes it everywhere. So
Yeah.
that's a big
Yeah.
advantage. I never understood why Alan Bradley couldn't get that to work like the rest of the guys that do function
Yeah,
blocks.
I know. It is interesting. We ended up a lot of times we would end up avoiding AOIs
Yeah,
because of that reason until you really have it dialed in after, a couple years. Like sometimes it takes that long to make sure that this thing isn't going to need more updates.
right.
Um, so yeah, that is kind of a limitation of Rockwell.
Yeah. I think a lot of the big companies now, you're probably seeing this on LinkedIn like I am, people talking about software validation more and
Mm,
unit testing and all that. And I think
hmm
they come from the perspective of we want to have modules that are contained and do a certain job, and we want to make sure they're absolutely fully tested and validated before we ever put them into production. But the
Right.
bigger machines now may have hundreds of special purpose AOIs in the Allen Bradley side, which of course function blocks have always been that way. But that's a
Right.
surprise to me. Yeah. Because
Mm,
the young guys who learn Python and C sharp and things like that in college, they would really
yeah.
rather go to those structured text-based programs instead of ladder logic. But Allen
Right.
Bradley's still primarily ladder. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. There's been a lot of debate on
yes,
LinkedIn about ladder logic lately, and it's still cruising on, at least here in the US.
that's right. Okay, and what would be the best way to reach you? I do have, and I will put a lot of this in the show notes. The website is www.myplctraining.com, and I believe you can leave in, you can apply for things or leave information or ask questions right there.
Hmm.
And then on LinkedIn, Stephen Gates my PLC training. But I think you'll find Stephen just under Stephen Gates too. He's probably the most prolific Stephen Gates out there.
Well, actually, there's a StephenGates.com spelled exactly like mine, and it's not me. So
Okay.
it's some designer that was been around since I was in college. So I still see him come up before me on Google searches.
Okay. Yeah. And then youtube.com, my PLC training 1238. But again, I think if you type in my PLC training, I believe you'll come up with the correct location.
Yeah,
And I think there's 300 plus videos just there on YouTube. So a lot of good
yeah,
free information to decide if this is really something you want to get into.
yeah,
Um, and
absolutely.
any plans for live classes in person?
Oh man, I've thought about it many times. I keep thinking about it, and sometimes I'm like, maybe I could partner with Frank to do my live classes since you're a very experienced live class guy. But yeah, n nothing settled right now, but I think, someday it would be fun to have some live classes because there is something, I mean, there's something special about working together in person that you can't replicate online. We try to get as much as we can out of the online experience and leverage that for all it's worth, because there's a lot of benefits to it. But there is something special about live, and so someday it would be fun to do that.
Yeah, I think that troubleshooting in the long run is best going to be done live, and I don't have a great answer for that either. I did come into a whole lot of extra equipment. You may have seen some of my posts, and
Yeah, I
some of
saw
those
that.
are some pretty good troubleshooting trainers. They're old, but
Mm.
they have you wire things yourself, and
Hmm.
you can put problems on there for the students, figure out what's wrong with this thing, you know.
That's cool.
So, but
Yeah,
it
that's
big investment, right? To
yeah, yeah,
buy hardware and
yeah,
licenses for everybody and PLCs
yeah.
for everybody. And so
Right.
that's a lot of times the
Yeah, I know Tim Wilborn has, from what I've heard, he has some good classes on that type of thing, and I know you do as well. For and you kind of do a lot of
yes,
custom stuff for people, which is really great for companies that are trying to train their employees for their specific systems. So there's people out there doing it, and sometimes I think that I would like to do it too, but we're staying pretty busy with online right now.
exactly. And you go with what's the I always say the easy path, right? The
Yeah,
path that's right in front of me is what I'm, and a lot of
right,
that for me is taking contract classes from somebody else. So uh,
right.
I don't do as
Yeah,
many of my own classes, but when I get a chance, I
right.
try to. Yeah.
Cool.
All
Cool.
right. Well, again, myPLCtraining.com, Stephen Gates, and you can find him in all the places that we listed before, and I'll put some things in the show notes. And Stephen, if you can get that guy's name, it may very well be because he's come out with a few books, Tom Major Anderson.
Yep,
Uh,
that's the one. I looked it up while we are talking here. It's
yeah,
called The Collection of Exercises for PLC Programming. Tom Mejer Antonensen.
and Antonsen, that's right. And
Antonsen, there we go.
he is a in-person teacher at uh, technical colleges in Denmark. So that's why
Nice.
he writes lots of books. And just like Kelvin Erickson, right? It's the same
Yeah,
kind of thing.
right, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. If there's any other links that you need or contact info, let me know. I can send that over to you.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for meeting with me, Stephen, and it's been
You
great
bet,
talking,
Frank.
and continued success with my PLC training.
Hey, I really appreciate it, Frank. Always good to talk to you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Mastering the Machine. Whether you're headed back to the production line or entering sleep mode, remember, in the world of automation, we're all learning to speak the same language. Thanks for joining me today, both my human listeners and any AI overlords who might be tuning in. Until next time, keep your sensors sharp, your processes optimized, and your curiosity fully operational. This is Frank Lamb signing off. Stay automated, stay amazing.